What do you believe warrants LeBron the title king? LeBron James' journey to a record-setting 38,388 points can't be fully understood without knowing how it fits into the bigger story of his time in the NBA. After he left Cleveland for Miami in 2010, James was criticized for taking the easy way out, for starting the so-called super team, and for choosing to play with other future Hall of Famers instead of lifting a franchise by himself. But since LeBron will soon hold one of sports' most prestigious individual records, and probably for a long time to come, history should tell a different story. LeBron was the super team. Whichever team he played on was the super team. And as important as it will be to all basketball fans, becoming the NBA's all-time leading scorer should be seen as a byproduct of a career that was meant to go after different goals. James didn't always make the right decisions about how to approach his career, or who would make the best teammates. We can see that happening right now in Los Angeles, where he might spend his last years in anger. But if we look at what makes James the most important basketball player since Michael Jordan retired, being the all-time scoring leader is at best a distant second. That is just a record which can be broken in 30 or 40 years by the next child prodigy. But being at the forefront of so-called player empowerment changed not only the NBA, but also how fans will watch sports for the rest of their lives. LeBron James changed the game for players too. People now take it as a given that the best players in any sport will do whatever they can to put themselves in the best position to win championships, and that teams will do whatever they need to do to make that happen. It is a well-known fact that in modern basketball, star players almost never remain loyal to the same team for their entire careers. One exception is the rule of Kevin Durant, who is still playing for the Brooklyn Nets, despite the fact that he asked to be traded over the summer. This is a merely commercial transaction. It is clear that James's legacy is much more important than any statistic, despite the fact that people can argue about whether this is a good or bad thing for how people watch sports in general. Fans may have been turned off by the decision, which was when James went on TV and announced that he was taking his talents to South Beach, but more than a dozen years later, fans have also bought into this NBA paradigm. On a daily basis, we are able to observe this phenomenon on social media, where users, such as ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, and others compete with him to be the first to report on any trade, signing, or other change that occurs to the roster of the team. On its own, it constitutes a very sizable industry. It's possible that LeBron James didn't have all that planned out when he made the decision to leave the team that picked him first, which was located relatively close to his hometown of Akron, and go to Miami instead. However, what he did was trade championships for money and points in the belief that winning titles is the most important aspect of a career. Given that this was James' method of counting, we have adopted it as our own. And for an incredible 8 straight seasons, including the 4 he spent in Miami and the 4 he spent back in Cleveland, James's stats almost didn't matter at all. This includes the time he spent in both cities. How many basketball fans could have told you where he was in the scoring race or what his field goal percentage was? Not very many. However, they were all aware of how many championships he had won and how many times he had appeared consecutively in the NBA Finals. When LeBron James and the Miami Heat won their second championship together in 2013, James had already established himself as the greatest basketball player in the world and one of the greatest of all time. That was a very significant action. However, in the end, the majority of the negative things that were said about James and how he managed his career were disproved in 2016 when the Cavaliers defeated the Golden State Warriors in Game 7 after trailing the series 3-1. At that point, we could at least start talking about James as the best player of all time, even if he did not match or beat Jordan's 6 titles. At that point, we could at least start talking about James as the best player of all time, because at some point during his move from Miami to Cleveland, James' influence on the game went beyond the statistics or even the people he played with at various points in his career. It is true that he exercised discretion and intelligence in making his decision to collaborate with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, followed by Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. However, he was the only thing that brought them together. Because he was there, they were able to achieve victory. When James left the Cavaliers for the second time to join the Lakers in 2018, there was not a significant backlash like there was after decision. It's possible that this is due to the fact that he won a championship with Cleveland, but it's also possible that this is due to the fact that everything has changed. It's becoming increasingly common for superstars to switch teams and form the teams that they most desire to play for. Kevin Durant won 2 titles with the Warriors before joining Kyrie Irving on the Nets. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George went to the Clippers, and James Harden and Russell Westbrook helped get out of Houston. Regardless of the circumstances, that is always how the game is played. James, who is 38 years old, still appears capable of playing basketball at a high level for a considerable amount of time, which would put him thousands of points ahead of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the list of all-time scorers. At this point, however, the likelihood of him adding any further titles is significantly reduced. Even though James may have relocated to Los Angeles for both personal and basketball reasons for the remainder of his career, he is still publicly pushing for the Lakers to give up future assets in order to build a new team around him that is better than the team that they currently have. This time, it is unclear whether his wishes will come true or whether it would make much of a difference if they did. This is something that he has expressed in the past. And then, this is where the intrigue begins to unfold. It was obvious a long time ago that James would break the record given how good he's been throughout his career and how long he's played the game. But because of the way he revolutionized the NBA by giving players the kind of agency that no one had ever given them before, and by always finding ways to play with players that he wanted to play with, we'll keep asking, what's next? Until he decides to call it quits, one thing's for sure. One way or another, James will find a way to play with his kids in the same team. Will this be enough to motivate and teach them his ways? To nurture them to be even greater record-breaking beasts than him? Only time will tell. For now, we count the points till he breaks Kareem's record. That's all the time we had today. Till next time, cheers.